Welcome to another episode of Have Game Will Travel. I am your host, Bennett Newsome, also known as Damn It Bennett out on the internet. But if you've never watched Have Game Will Travel, it's an interview style show all about how there's so much more to esports than just being good at the game. We kind of take a virtual journey through our guests, journey through the industry, talk about all the things that they've done that have led them to their career now. So I'm so excited today to be having Danny Martin join us here. So let's go ahead and get started. And come on in, Danny. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm great. This is a great opportunity to provide some context to what we all are passionate about within the industry of gaming and esports. So supremely thank you for the platform.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to the show. Excited to have you be here. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I graduated from University of Texas at San Antonio with an entrepreneurship degree. On campus, in order to make some little capital as an athlete, I was hosting tournaments, esports tournaments, before there was even a program. Also before individuals coined it esports.
Right.
And then at the same time, I was fixing consoles. So I was fixing consoles, Xboxes, PlayStations, just an opportunity for individuals to expedite their gaming in the instance that they experience red rings of death or anything. And so I was that person that they'll just knock on a dorm room door, drop off their PC or console, and I'll fix it. And then that was a way for me to make some capital. I was able to take that data and then leverage it in regards to marketing back out to the actual clients to do tournaments. Like, hey, I see you have FIFA in your actual console. I'm doing a FIFA tournament next week, So that was this was around about 2010, 2011.
Okay.
So ultimately, fast forward, I've had a great opportunity to experience tech startups in San Francisco, and ultimately came back to my hometown in Dallas, Fort Worth, and really took my home, my loft at the time in downtown Dallas, converted it into an esports space. I slept in a closet for about 3 years, literally put my bed in the closet, turned my bedroom into a spectator area where we had TVs for friends to come in and watch, and then took the living room and installed 10 monitors and computers for individuals to play team-based gaming. And it was really cool to be able to know, I'm inviting individuals into my house to compete. I also was building a tech platform at the time, just due to the fact that I was really trying to build a platform for tournament organizing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really good opportunity for me to leverage the facility as a beta testing place. So I would let tournament organizers come into my home, run their tournaments with their community, and they will give me feedback back on the technology platform that I was building. So that was, that was my first instance in regards to the power of community building, as well as seeing some of the gamers that were competing actively, fulfilling what they actively wanted to do and compete on a larger scale. But I really learned at that point the power of individuals working behind the scenes. And so competitive gamers really needed to have a support system, and it was the individuals who are running the tournaments, and the tournament organizers needed the marketers to be able to help with promo from animation to production to the scene. So it was really cool for me to see there's a whole ecosystem, and there's not a lot of resources out there to shine light on what you do. And so I was just like, this is my calling. How do we figure out a way to build an ecosystem where we can educate individuals about the industry? And this is where Esposure has been born.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, you talk about, if we go all the way back to the beginning, talk about, building kind of a space in your house. I mean, that's a really big component of a lot of community gaming things that start out that way, right? They start off, okay, we're just bringing a bunch of people over, doing a LAN, at the house, and then it starts to evolve from there, which it sounds like it did. So obviously you got your start though, fixing consoles. Tell us a little bit, about that. I mean, I also, suffered the red ring of death back in the day, as so many other people did, so I would have definitely called you up to fix mine, because Xbox took forever to fix mine.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. it was funny because, that was a time when Microsoft was really trying to compete with PlayStation. So they sent out a lot of consoles and they just really wasn't up to par. And so that's what we're really experiencing. And a lot of people didn't know it, but when you take a part of a console, you get a chance to see like the inner workings. I was fascinated about the inner workings of a console. And so, when people send me their actual consoles, it's typically because when they're playing, they're probably smoking and the actual, the dust builds up. And once it gets really hot in there, it moves the processor on the motherboard, and that gives the error. So that's where the red rings of death will come. So it'll be about how do you clean it and then actually take the processor, melt the solder balls at the bottom of the processor and actually recorrect it on the actual motherboard, and then you'll fix it. And so a lot of people, that's where it was like, wow, like I'll be like, gotta stop smoking.
Don't put it on your carpet around your dogs.
Don't put it on your carpet. Like, don't like, it's like, so that was like the instance of me just being very curious in like the inner working. So I really got a great understanding from a hardware perspective, which gave me even more appreciation for the software side of tech. So knowing both sides is like very critical. That I really tell individuals.
Definitely, yeah. So one of the kind of like hallmark questions of the show is what was the first game that you ever loved? And this goes back to like, I am a fan of many games. I love many games, but the very first one that I ever loved was like Doom. First time I played that. So for yourself, what was the first game that you ever truly like fell in love with?
Wow. So it's two of them. So I just told Bubba this. It was Harvest Moon.
Okay.
Was the first one, and I love that game because of just farming. It'd be weird, but I just love the game. I like those type of role play type of games. And then it was funny. It was Grand Theft Auto, and this was when Blockbuster was popular, right? And my uncle literally took us. We would walk in. He'd be like, "You can only get one game," and it would be me and my cousin. And we would be like fighting over which game we're going to actually like choose because we only get one. And we came to agreement to get one game and we played it and we just fell in love with it. And he took it back when we were at school. So when we came back, we were like, no, where's this game at? And we did not know the name of it. So like fast forward, like we were going to Blockbuster, like, where's this game again? Like trying to find it. And we just couldn't find it. Fast forward like a year or two, I popped up on and I was like, this is the game that we really loved that time. But ultimately I like games like another big game would be like NBA 2K. Yeah. Like really just growing up as a basketball player, just knowing basketball. Like I thought I was going to go to the NBA when I was in high school. Didn't happen. I ended up just going to college for running track. So NBA 2K was a really big game for me, as well as Red Dead Redemption. I really love that game.
Yeah, it's a great game. So sports, obviously that seems like that was a pretty big passion of track and basketball. Yep. Was sports your first passion or was gaming?
It was sports. Sports, analog sports was like what, I grew up in the southern sector of Dallas. Very, like it's not the most, fluent. Is not even nowhere near the most fluent. And so from my perspective, my family, we're always lean towards sports. Getting the college scholarship, going to the NBA. My parents and my family always were like, Danny, you're gonna make it to the NBA when I was like in fourth, fifth grade. Like I just grew up knowing like that was gonna be the way that I get my family out, and so from my perspective, gaming was what we did in between practices and with our teammates, just to be like, I'm tired, like I want to get away. Gaming was what we did. Like when we were on road trips, like if we're traveling to different games in different states, we will be gaming as a way to engage with each other. So like gaming became like that community builder and a opportunity for us to be that much more connected as teammates. And so that's how I really got involved in gaming.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, obviously, I also grew up playing sports, hockey and like football, and you're right. There's always something that you were doing with your team outside of playing, the actual sport. There was a way to connect as a team and do that. And video games was a great example of that, which is awesome. Yes. So, all right, so let's jump forward a little bit. You graduated from the University of Texas at San Antonio with the bachelor's of Business, Small Business Management, and Entrepreneurship. Talk to us about your experience at the University of Texas.
Yeah, so my entrepreneurship professor, Dr. Anita Luffel, she was the one that really seen that I had a lot on my plate, just due to the fact that I was an athlete. I ran a business, which was, fixing consoles and running tournaments, as well as my younger brother at the time. He was like a freshman. He moved from Dallas to that of San Antonio because he was just getting into some trouble in school in our area. So my mom asked if he can live with me on campus, and he went to a school in San Antonio around us. So my professor was like, dude, you're an entrepreneur, like you got all these tasks that you have to do, like you're like a real adult in college, and but you are, you have you have a good mind. I don't want to say brilliant mind, but she's like, you have you're unique.
Yeah.
And she was just like, as an entrepreneurship major, she said, I'm giving the students like makeshift companies to run, but since you have a company in college that people know around college knows, you could just use your business as a case study, like as your projects inside of your entrepreneurship. So that really helped me, build out a business plan and, be able to have the capabilities of talking to investors and really being able to, strategize with your whole business plan. And I remember in college, I literally, my business plan was like, I wanted to build a facility where it's almost like a gaming bar with consoles and things. So I remember literally using SketchUp and spending like 2 hours, not 2 hours, like 2 days building out this, this facility, like that's a gaming, lab facility in college. And so, I always had that ideal of doing it. So it's really cool that it actually is coming to fruition right now. Like literally I'm in a gaming facility, which is crazy to think about that. The ideal was in college. So she really helped me formulate that vision, and really got me the chance to go to San Francisco, like to move to San Francisco. She was just like, hey, I have an individual who just raised about $10 to $12 million Series A, and it's his company. He left eBay, and his new company is similar to eBay, but you use gamification to actually, have points on the items that you want to sell or actually buy. And he would love for you to come and work. So if you can graduate a little early, I know you got a lot of stuff on your plate, but I'll make sure that you get there. But you just got to promise me things. You're like, I know it's going to be intense, but you just have to make a C in my class. And I was just like, whew, this is going to be hard. So I passed with like a 71.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I just had so much on my plate. And she knew it. She understood it. And she let me, as soon as she gave me that passing grade, I moved. Me and my brother, we moved up to, we took a U-Haul and drove to San Francisco. And I remember at that point, that was my introduction to the tech world from a startup perspective.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, and getting that endorsement and connection from your teacher, that's a huge deal. And so obviously many shout outs to her for sending you on that direction, right?
Yes, for sure. And I always tell individuals, like, school is, from a collegiate perspective, collegiate is where you make your connections, where you make your connections for life. I still communicate with Anita Luffel and some of my professors from college, and they still give me advice on business, on things, from coaches as well. My college coaches, I still engage with. And so like college is like that atmosphere where you really learn yourself. You're able to make long lasting friendships, and ultimately you're able to go back and add value to your specific actual college for the students that are in your same position when you were in college.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like you'd fit in just fine here at Full Sail. I mean, networking is a huge component of everything that we do at the school. Students are on campus or online working together on different projects, networking the whole time. So it definitely has that same vibe that you're talking about. But all right, so getting into kind of like your early career, 2008, you really kind of kickstarted thing, working as a computer technician. You were at Lone Star Gaming, is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Definitely, for sure.
tell us a little bit about like what was your day-to-day like? What did that job entail? And how did that kind of start to set you up for what you would do later on?
Yeah, so I remember this. This is so interesting. I remember this is the aha moment in college in regards to doing the actual console. So my teammate, while I was at the cafe, we had just got out of practice and we were eating with our whole teammates. And Carvey was just like, hey, my console is inoperable. And at that point, I was just like, oh, ding, ding, ding. If I can fix this console, one, I can fix other people's and I can make some capital. And so I actually took that console when he provided it to me. And so I took the console to Lone Star Gaming and literally sat there and watched Juve, fix the console. And so I did it, I seen it, and then I'll go back on campus and I'll be like, I'll knock on dorm room doors and I'll be like, hey, I can fix your console, or I knew the person that could fix your console, or is your console broke? And, and and that was my way of just really gaining clientele. And so I would take him, I'll get a duffel bag, put all the consoles, take him to Lone Star Gaming, watch him for hours, fix it. And then eventually he started letting me fix them, and then that was my mentorship in regards to it. And then eventually I just asked him, I was like, hey, I've literally, sent so much consoles here and helped you. And is it okay? And I was starting to see like the profit margins as well. So I was just like, if I bring a console, like if I go bring a console from a campus, I bring it to him. If he's charging like $60, I would charge the client like $80. So I'll make $20 off of it. Right. So eventually I was just like, okay, well, let me start doing this myself. And I asked for his blessing and he was just like, dude, like you're a go-getter, I can't stop you. And I was just like, yeah, supremely thank you for giving me that blessing. And then that's when I took all of the equipment that I knew I needed and put it in my dorm room and started fixing the consoles from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned early in kind of the talking about what you do and your experience that you kind of dabbled in marketing as well, and you worked at Yellow Dog Media. Kind of tell us a little bit about the connections between starting to build and fix these consoles, and then kind of marketing as well.
Yeah, for sure. So like at Yellow Dog Media, that's the the startup that we worked with in San Francisco. And, literally like as soon as I got to San Francisco, I still had all the equipment. So, and I still had clients and customers already. So like when I was my new apartment in San Francisco, I set up all of the equipment and I was still fixing consoles even when I get out of work. And sometimes before I go into work in San Francisco. So I was really like able to do two things at once. Yeah. And when I get to the startup, it was just pretty awesome because in San Francisco, like when I leave out of my door, there's an element of people who look like me are they're either coming there for like blue collar jobs, street sweepers and things like that, or they're on drugs, like serious drugs, like serious drugs. And that was always hurtful for me. So when I walk as an African American, when I walk out of my door in San Francisco, and only people I see that looks like me are either on drugs or they're doing blue collar jobs like street sweeping, I told myself like I have to maximize this opportunity because this is like very rare, and I owe it to my my community, my home. To be able to take this knowledge. So for me, I walking all the way down to work every time, and I see it every single day. The drugs, the mental illnesses, all of that. I would take that, and then when I get to work, it was like the most amazing because now you're at Yellow Dog with some of the most brilliant minds that the world is seeing when it comes down to tech development. And so I'll walk in there and it's just like, wow, like I'm finna soak up as much information that I possibly can. And that entailed marketing. And because I was an entrepreneurship major based off that connection, the CEO, Danny Leffel, he was basically like, you're going to be underneath my tutelage. And so he would take me, he would literally take me into meetings for marketing. He will give me assignments in regards to the software development side of things for the platform. From the finance side, he basically took me through all components of the startup just because of that connection from my professor, my entrepreneurship professor. So as an entrepreneur, he was just like, I'm going to show you the ropes And so that was a really good experience. And then after work, I'll just walk back home and kind of see the sad. It was really sad for me. But it motivated me. So like every day for 2 years seeing it was like pretty surreal.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to show, you know, how important those connections are that you make, and how much of an impact that can have on the things that you do. So,
yes.
You know, as students are watching this, or grads, or if you're, you know, getting in high school or whatever, you know, really think and invest in those relationships that you're building along your journey, you know, because that's a huge part of the later years, if you will. You know, sometimes it takes time to build those foundations, but you know, obviously they're really important and they matter. So that's huge. All right, so tell us about like esports. Obviously, you know, everybody has their first experience in the world of esports. What was your first experience when, you know, coming into the world of esports?
Yeah, it was the tournaments that we were hosting on the campus in college at University of Texas, San Antonio. But it wasn't, I guess, like from a tournament perspective, it was more so like I didn't even really coin it esports. I didn't say we're doing an esports tournament. I was just like, we're doing a FIFA tournament, you know, like, and so like it didn't really click to me until around about 2015, when I was in my home in downtown Dallas, like my loft that I converted. And that was the point where it was come time to build the platform, the competitive platform, where it was like, if you're going to build a bracketing platform, a tournament hosting platform, you know, you started to have to learn about all the different esports titles and the genres of esports and tier 1 versus tier 3 titles. And if you're trying to build a platform, how do you build that platform to adhere to all of those different titles? It's almost nearly impossible, especially if you haven't raised capital, right? So I was quickly in the position to where it's like, I have to raise capital to be able to really have the bandwidth to do all of these type of functionalities in the platform. And I went out trying. You know, it was very difficult to raise capital. And so it came to a point to where I just was like, well, I can keep trying to ask people for money to fund this thing, or I can just go build it, you know, and focus in on one niche. And because I knew basketball, I was like, let me see why NBA 2K is like on the bottom chain of the tiers. Like, why is it tier 3? And what sports games are tier 3? And I recognized that a lot of the sports games at the time, they just didn't have that team component like a League of Legends or Dota or such. And, you know, at that point, I was like, what game title? And at that same time, that's when NBA 2K at 2K16, they announced Pro-Am, which is 5v5 competition.
Right.
And when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus in on tech platform for 2K and build the 2K community. And that's what I did. I just started focusing on competitions around 2K, letting players come into my loft to do 5v5 competitions, because at that point there was no places for them to go to do 5v5. They did it online all the time. So I was like utilizing our space, like, hey, you could come in the physical and it replicates just like traditional basketball. And that went so amazing to the point to where 2 years after that, the NBA 2K League announced the NBA 2K League. You know, it Take-Two Interactive NBA announced the 2K League, and a lot of the players that were actively in our facility were then drafted to the NBA 2K League. So like today, we know around about 8 gamers that have gone pro through the environment that we created. And literally last year, you know, like the last several years, Dave Fry, who's won the NBA 2K League championship both years in a row, he's from Waxahachie. He was in our facility all the time. You know, like that was his first time playing in a live action. So therefore, when he got drafted, he always would say, man, I literally experienced playing in a live environment through, you know, Danny's home, you know, and him having that type of feeling, it made it easier for him to transition to competing on the grand stage. You know, now he's back-to-back championship winner for the NBA 2K League. So it's like, I seen that actual route when it came down to esports in that capacity during that time of being, you know, operating, basically a community out of my home.
Yeah. And now I think in 2014, you co-founded and were the CEO of, is it Geek Leaks?
Yes, you said it right. Yeah.
All right, cool. I want to make sure.
Yes. Yeah. That's the company that we were under
Okay.
for in the house. So like literally I
Cool.
had Geek Leaks logos all over my
Yeah.
house. And that's when we did the competition. So Geek Leaks was focused on like competition. It was like my goal was to say geek and athlete, combine them to make individuals feel comfortable being a nerd. Like I wanted our
Yeah.
community to feel like it's okay to be a geek, you know, like
Yeah.
it's okay, you know. So that was one of the ways that I really wanted to leverage that word in the business to showcase to our communities that, you know, it's okay to be, you know, it's okay to be smart. You know, it's okay to want to play games, and it was synonymous because athletes wanted to also be geeks. Geeks want to be athletes. So, you know, I looked at that same thing as an opportunity to really provide true impact.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at now to 2022, you've got gaming and esports and streaming as like part of almost pop culture now, and it's just ingrained in that. But back in 2014 and before that, it was definitely not. So I love you kind of bringing those things together was really cool. Was there one location for Geek Leaks, or was there multiple places that this was happening at?
Yeah, so eventually, you know, the 2,000 square foot loft angered my neighbors. Yeah, you got to think of like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, granted, we were in the basement, you know, but our neighbors all on top of us, you have like 2 o'clock in the morning, everybody's screaming. And you got to go yelling and playing games. So like that didn't, you know, the office came to me very quickly and was like, we admire what you're doing in the basement, but you can't do it here, you know? So, and so that's what really forced me to, you know, find a larger space. And so, and that was also the time that Esports Stadium in Arlington hadn't been built yet, but Mavs Gaming was a space that was being built at that time. And then Complexity announced their plans to build Complexity in Frisco. So I was just like, well, like I was the first one to have a actually esports space, you know, but now it's like the billionaires are getting involved. You know, now they're building these large facilities. So I was like, well, if I want to compete, you know, I got to go build it. I got to go find a large facility. So I found a 15,000 square foot esports space, and I really leveraged it as an opportunity to, you know, invite the actual community out for competitions. And a facet that was similar to like Esports Stadium in Arlington, but it was much smaller, right? So I looked at it as like, if you're a tournament organizer, you got to start. You can't just start, you know, in a big stadium. You got to start from that of your basement, like I did, like out of the dorm room, you know, or your college dorm or whatever it may be. And then you got to, you know, you find a 2,000 square foot space or a 5,000 square space. You build your tournaments from there. And then I always looked at it as like, if someone can run their tournaments out of here, then eventually they can run it out of a stadium, you know? So I kind of looked at that smaller space as a platform for individuals to grow their brands and get more acclimated to tournament organizing, and also leveraging that space to let educators come in to be able to see, like, we're in an area where we have like 7 ISDs in our areas from a high school perspective. None of them had esports programs. And so I looked at it as a great opportunity to leverage that facility as a way to invite them in, showcase to them about esports and gaming, kind of let them see an actual event, because esports, you got to touch and feel it. You know, even when you want to work in the industry, you got to really have, you can learn about it, but you also got to apply that learning lessons to build your portfolio, because getting hired in this industry is incredibly difficult without those skill sets. So in this instance, I really leveraged that facility as a way to let people come in and see, touch, and feel the esports and gaming. And it's crazy that I'm having this opportunity to speak with you right now as a representative of Full Sail, because Full Sail is like Full Sail is where I am trying to go. I want it's like I want to be the next Full Sail, you know, and that's why this is so amazing to have this conversation, because I've always so admired, because you really don't see anything else out there at Full Sail. So Full Sail has always been my North Star, because it's like I've done it, you know, but it's not to the caliber of Full Sail. So it's like very interesting. But I use that space, you know, that 15,000 square foot space as a hub, and then COVID hit.
Small beginnings lead to big things, you know. I mean, Full Sail started, with a workshop in a, converted motor court coach that they basically gutted like a Winnebago and put a whole recording console setup in there, and then they would drive around the country into different places to teach these workshops on recording arts. And obviously here we are many years later and doing the things. But I think that's such an important part of a lot of the conversations that we have on this show is time. You got to let time do its thing. As long as you keep doing the things that you're doing and you're building and you're elevating, you're continuing to do what your goals are, they all start to add up over time.
Yes.
And it seems like obviously for you and Geek Leaks, which seems to have eventually evolved into Esposure, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. You've really kind of showed that course, really works as you go through things. So, I did want to go back a little bit. Earlier, you had mentioned about community and how that's such a big part of what you do. You currently sit on 2 boards, or you previously sat on a board with the position at the Esports Trade Association, as well as the Big Brothers Big Sisters Lone Star board. Tell us about your experience with both of these board positions.
Yes, for sure. So, when I'm asked to be on a board, I really look at the actual organization and what they're trying to actively do in regards to Esports Trade Association. They really wanted to educate the actual community about that of gaming, esports, as well as the actual business side. And I kind of fit in, for even at Esposure, we kind of fit in the middle where we're having to engage with students and young individuals within the actual industry, but also we have to engage with the stakeholders, the politicians, the superintendents, the directors. So we really have to educate on both sides about pipeline opportunities and the value of a portfolio, as well as the reach and why individuals are playing this particular game or why they're feeling great about this community. So trying to teach on both sides. So I felt like that was a really good opportunity to really add value to ESTA. And they literally took it and just say, hey, this is a great opportunity to bring this to our the individuals who want to be a part of this organization. So it was really, really cool to be able to see the impact that they can have on the actual on the community that they have. And then, ultimately I'm running a company. So my time is very limited when it comes down to it. So I literally had to take a step back to focus in on the company, as well as with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I feel like because we work with students and young individuals on a consistent basis here, that's a great way to add value to Big Brothers Big Sisters. So when it comes down to fundraising events, Big Brothers Big Sisters can use it in a way to engage with the younger individuals, where the bigs and littles can be a part of the actual events that we do from a gaming and esports perspective. So it really allows Big Brothers Big Sisters to have a new outlook on how they fundraise, as well as how they engage with their actual bigs and littles.
Yeah, that's awesome. And esports and gaming in general is just really about people wanting to belong, right? And to feel included and I feel I when I was reading that, I was like, man, that's such a good way to get involved and really something that I was happy to see there. And obviously it goes back, like you said, into your the love for the community, right?
Yes.
Really giving back, which is huge. So awesome. So okay, you also, and the list goes on of the things that you're doing, which is crazy. So you also hold a position at the SMU Cox School of Business as the esports subject matter expert. Talk to us a little bit about what you do there at SMU.
Yes, for sure. So they, Simon Mack reached out, as well as several other individuals at SMU, and they wanted to start a esports management certificate program for continuing education. And they reached out to about 6 of us individuals in the industry, and we came all together and built out a 6-week course, or a 6-month course, being each course 1 being a month and course 2 being a month. So about 6-month course, where students of SMU and even outside of SMU can leverage the actual course to be able to learn about the esports industry, and it's in a way from industry individuals, which is really cool. I look at that actual management certificate program, and we're in our third year now. I look at it as an opportunity to really give like practical advice to that of the students. Like, here's some experiences.
Yeah.
Here's something you should do. Here's something you shouldn't do. And leveraging as an opportunity to, just like how my professor did in college, leveraging an opportunity to say, hey, you know, even after this course, here's my number, here's my email.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to reach out to me after this course. You know, really, you know, leverage me as an opportunity to, you know, put some ideals off your head, you know, like, and if I can guide you in a type of way, that's kind of really like one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to be a participant in regards to the development of the Esports Management Certificate Program at SMU, is really to be able to, you know, have, you know, like give the students something that they can always have outside of the course. And that's one of the biggest things that my professor in college did as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I saw that like content creation was listed as like a responsibility of that. Was that more in like curriculum development, or is that content in like YouTube videos and things like that?
Yeah, it was curriculum development, but it was also content. We had to, based off of our course, my course was tournament organization and management. Nice. So from that perspective, and recruitment, so I leveraged a platform like YouTube to create videos about specific topics within the actual modules, and those were my course structure. And so at that instance right there, that was a great opportunity to really get in front of a camera, talk about the course, and then also present that course, like let the students have that video that they can research or view before class, and then be able to go a little bit more in depth when it comes down to speaking to the students in person during that actual class session.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So, okay, we're caught up. We've gone through the journey now. We are here. We're not in 2022 yet, but we're in 2020. You co-founded and you know, obviously they are the CEO of Esposure, which is the leading esports technology provider of professional esports education, production and studio services, competitive gaming and experiences, and career development for the community. Talk to us about Esposure. Give us the whole pitch there.
Yeah. So when we were at Geek Leaks at the 15,000 square foot space, COVID hit. And that was the point right then where we had to figure out what we were going to do. We couldn't have events at the facility. So basically we were just like, whew, well, we know that schools, specifically high schools in our area, had to go virtual. So like, what were they going to do in regards to keeping the actual engagement level of the students? Like, how can we turn competition, you know, esports and education and make it fun and provide that to the actual high schools in our current area? And so that's what we did. We hunkered down. We used our space as a content hub where I broke down management, marketing, technology, competition, and production. And literally probably like in about a month's time, I think it was a month, right at March, I literally created about 120 videos that were about 7 minutes each, breaking down management, marketing, technology, competition, and production. And on the flip side, our dev team, built a technological platform that's a learning management system. So therefore, the content that I created, we stored it on that platform, and then provided the actual platform to the schools, our local schools, to engage with the actual content, so they can learn, so they can have some. And that was a move that we had to make in regards to changing our whole structure, because it was a moment in time, like right at Geek Leaks, we were inviting all the schools to our facility, and when they all said we can't come to your facility anymore, we were just like, okay, well, we have to go to the school. So from a marketing and branding perspective, like, we need to fit more aligned with the actual schools. And so Geek Leaks was cool, but we were just like, what can we do to really position ourselves as an education to make it easier to provide our platform and our content to the actual schools? And so we made the choice to go to Esposure, and Esposure is esports and exposure together, just like Geek Leaks. You know, like, so like we were just like, this is the greatest opportunity to be able to engage with the actual schools, where the schools felt comfortable with working with a partner that has an educational element. Even though it was already in us, it just made it more, made it more visible for people who didn't quite know who we were. And then, we recognized quickly, like, all right, we have this we have this huge building, nobody's in there, so now we need to downsize,
Right.
so go back down, because expenses is high, so like ultimately, we made the decision to, go through, like, have that platform. Our first client was Lancaster ISD. We started getting more schools that go through our platform and engage with our content. And then we were like, let's take it a step further. Let's not only just create a learning management system, but if you're interested in esports and gaming, you have to actually apply it. So let's build a technology platform that is more like a learning experiential platform where you can actually learn, but you can also apply what you've learned in an actual facet of what you would do outside in the real world, like managing a Discord server. Like, we built functionality that mimics that in our platform, or building a website. We built functionality in our platform that allows the students, so when they're learning about the benefits of building a website, they can actually go and build a website in our platform that can help them start to build out their portfolio. And so quickly we recognized, like, hey, it's time, the world is opening back up. Yep. So we literally, man, I had so much of a budget, like literally, like I didn't have a lot of capital, and I was just like, we have to downsize, but we have to make a building that's really unique. And so, I built a floor plan. I looked for buildings, looked at a floor plan, built out a floor plan. I knew exactly how we wanted to build this experience for students when they come into our building. And in about 163 days, like, built a full 8,000 square foot esports education center and studio. And that's where we're at right now.
That's incredible. Yeah. And I it really just shows the entrepreneur in you that, when COVID hit and things changed, you pivot,
yes.
And you went, all right, how do I fix this? What can I do? How do we continue, this journey that you're on? And from that, I mean, I think that even spawned an even bigger, company for you, right? Like,
yes.
you're now doing multiple different things versus just the one.
Yes.
And that growth is huge, which is really cool. And I love the kind of evolution of Geek Leaks, right? Like, you still kind of you got a similar name, right? You combine the two things together and it comes together really well. Obviously, I think a big part of what we both do revolves around esports education and the pathway to professional careers in esports. And, obviously there's a path to pro that everybody always talks about, but that's more of a competitor side. But, what you guys do and what Full Sail does is really the pathway for a professional career in esports.
Yes.
Talk to us about, Exposure's focus on careers.
Yes. Wow. So, man, it's kind of awesome because, when it was time to build a team, what I was doing is going, like, even in the basement, I remember going to high schools in the local area and, like, asking the teachers if I can actually, like, speak to the class because I need a graphic designer. So like, I would go to graphic designer class, like, hey, here's esports gaming, such and such and such. We're looking for a graphic. Does any of you guys have portfolios? Some individuals would raise their hands, some individuals wouldn't. But I remember our staff, even to this day, a lot of our staff members come from high school and college where they literally have been working with us. And that's when I recognized, like, man, this is the pipeline that's being created as in front of our eyes, and seeing those individuals now work with larger companies and work at universities or optics or, complexities or wherever they are at, it's really cool to be able to see that timeline. And so ultimately for us is about skill building. So, one of the things that we do, we leverage our platform as a learning experiential platform. And alongside of that, we kind of really bypassed curriculum because of the actual need of more so of like, hey, the skill has to be acquired to go to X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So it was really more so like project-based learning that we really focused on. So we really was thinking, like, how can we actively do that? And I remember in college, my capstone was, you have a project, and you present to actual, quote unquote, investors at the end of that capstone. And so I was like, we need a program like that in esports. And that's when we came up with the immersion program that leveraged our technology platform as well. So, we actually we did it a year ago. We launched it a year ago, and we launched it with Dallas ISD Townview, which is a magnet school that's here. And the students for the first week of that four-week program, the students would, learn management, marketing, technology competition on the learning management side of our platform with content assessments and things like that. And then on the second week, we will break the students up into groups of 5, and each group would have a general manager, a head coach, a marketing specialist, a production technician, and a software developer. And we'll give them a fantasy coins in which they can utilize to draft. So we will run an actual tournament in the actual gaming community and take the top 4 qualifying teams and then fly those individuals to our facility so they can compete in a league. And so basically when they get here, we will be able to put those athletes into 1-star athlete, 2-star athlete, 3-star athlete, and 4-star athlete, and give that data to the students. And the students get a chance to be like, okay, I need 2 1-star athletes and 1 4-star athlete and 1 1-star athlete. And every group would have a different variation of what they want to be able to pull onto their team. And then on the third week, they'll all have assignments. The general manager will overlook the actual roles in the group. The actual head coach would create data based off of the draft picks that they've secured. And then also the marketing specialists will create a marketing strategy, logos that they can all do inside of our technology platform. And then the production technician would take highlight clips of the actual performances of the players in the actual league based off of what they drafted on their team. And then the software developer will create a website that you can do inside of our platform to showcase all the work from the general manager to the head coach to the marketing specialist to the production technician. And on the 4th week, they'll present that website to their prospective investor, to shine light on what they've done as far as collaboration with their team, which they can then utilize that as a portfolio to say, this is what I've done in the industry, which makes it easier for them to go to actual company and say, here's what I've done confidently. And so that's one of the biggest focal points for us, is just like, how do we make project-based experiences valuable for students? And that has been like one of our best programs that schools like really love to engage with, that we work with.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. I would have loved that when I was in school. That just seems awesome. So thank you for that. Yeah, we're going to take our first question from chat here. This comes from our resident question asker, Jacob is Nachos, who you've had the pleasure of meeting in Texas the last time we ran into each other, DreamHack. But it says, first of all, I love what you guys are doing and loving this conversation. The question, are you hiring? We have some amazing and hardworking grads from Full Sail that are always looking. What does your hiring process look like?
Yeah, so one of the things is, because we have the facility, like we're looking at the actual students being running our facility, like Full Sail. Like I left Full Sail so inspired. I was like, we have to make sure that our facility is student ran. And I've been telling our education team like that, like every single day. But at the end of the day, we still have clients that we work for, like, like the NBA 2K League will say, hey, can you do an event? Or, a Crocs or whomever it would be wants to do events. And so, it's on one end, we're still a company, so we're not at Full Sail capacity. So we have to we can't let students work on those actual productions, because it's like may not get the client no more. So, but at the same sense, when we're doing some events that students can run, that's what we really want to focus in on. So when those events transpires, we look at for graphic designers, we look for content creators, we look for videography, photography, we look for that of event coordinators, we look for animators. So like anytime we get an event in, we have a database of individuals that we actively look to secure for those actual events that we do inside of our facility. So if individuals, Jacob, literally bring them, let me know them so we can put in our database, especially if they're very passionate and want to be able to grow within the industry. And then some of our salary positions are more so on our educational side, more like our educators, our dev team, our marketing as well. So that's kind of more so like our salary positions. But when it comes down to the event, we are contractors. So we literally, when we get an event, we will see all the type of resources that we need to facilitate that event. And then we'll reach out to those individuals.
Love it. Now, you mentioned NBA 2K is one of them, but you've done some incredible work. Worked with Dell, Sony, NFL, NBA. What's it been like? Working with some of the big names. Coming from doing this in your basement to working with the NBA. That's a huge deal. What's it been like?
Yeah, it's amazing. Also high intensity, but most importantly, when I think about the individuals, I always tell individuals this. What I think about most importantly is that the individuals who work on those projects were either students or I've seen them, I've developed them coming out into the industry. Right. And so that platform that an NBA will provide, or Sony or whomever it may be, they're literally providing the opportunity for that individual to develop their portfolio. So I look at it as like, like I'm on them because, again, this is a company, so we have to put our best foot forward. But that type of environment breeds greatness amongst these individuals who may not, have the opportunity otherwise. And so from this perspective, it's just a great opportunity to see that if you execute an event, you're ultimately allowing the individual to develop their portfolio. So therefore, they can show that portfolio to another company and ultimately continue their tenure inside of this industry and impact the industry in various of ways. And I look at it as like, working with those organizations is like, it's a blessing for the individuals who work along with our team. And so I hope to keep doing it, as we have more and more students coming through our pathway.
Absolutely. Now to focus on Danny Martin just a little bit. In 2021, you were named to Forbes Next 1000 list. Which is a list of who's, redefining what it means to run a business today. Obviously, Forbes does a lot of different lists, so it's really cool to be on one. What was it like being named to this list?
It's just validation. Yeah. It's validation because it's like, it's validation, but ultimately it's makes it easier. Like, being an African-American male in the industry that's not, that's majority Caucasians and males. Right. I always feel that it's really hard to get through the door. Yep. And if you do get through the door, what I call is like your little bro. You're like, hey, I gave you this opportunity, so you better behave. Like I just don't like. The validation helps you cut through a lot of the hardship, the obstacles and things like that. And so I really leverage the accolades as a way to make it easier for me to go into those same rooms that I feel like I'm capable of going in, and having confidence that I am just as smart as anyone else, but also humble enough to want to learn, but not having to be like taken advantage of, right? Where someone has to respect me and the experience that I have in this industry and the tenure that I've been in this space. Because getting in this industry, I felt like all the time I was always having to work 10 times harder for an opportunity and I still even feel like that from an investment perspective. I feel as if like when you think of our company, Esports, we haven't taken any investment, but we're competing with companies that actively have taken a lot of investment. Yeah. So it's like we're working incredibly hard, where someone says, hey, like if they are providing an opportunity from an investment perspective, the terms are so crazy that it's like, no, I'm not going to subject my company, the staff that I've developed for so long that are relying on me, like my family is a part of our company. Like I'm not going to subject ourselves to crazy deals to where, I have to answer to that one day. But ultimately those accolades allows you to go into a room and say, no, like, check what we're doing compared to a competitor. And if we're doing it the same, if we have more resources, we can do it 10 times better, so those accolades really get you in the room to be able to have those type of conversations. Because otherwise without them, you'll just get you'll just have somebody like really just, they won't see your worth. They won't see your value.
And I mean, to see how far you've gotten without, the support around you out from an investment standpoint, I mean, that's huge. You've gotten to this point on your own. It really can help solidify that, and that you can stand on your own, like that's huge.
For sure.
What would you say, and this is another question that we ask every guest that come on, like what would you say the biggest misconception people have about esports is?
One, I'll say it's for individuals who want to be competitive gamers, right? I think that's the largest misconception, because we see it flipped. We see seeing gamers that have gone, that have quote unquote have turned professional. That's like LeBron James coming straight out of high school, and very rare, and we've seen it. Like when I reference Dayfry, he won 2 championships in NBA 2K League, and he come from, our hometown, and there was a lot of support that we provided to him. But that doesn't happen all the time. So, but Dayfry needs a support system. Dayfry needs content. Dayfry needs, he needs to have an event coordinator. He needs to have an actual, in order to be Dayfry, he has to compete in the stadium, and somebody has to operate that stadium, like Armada. Like there has to be a whole infrastructure that's there to support a Dayfry,
Yep.
And I think, that's the biggest misconception, is that we need more individuals outside of the competitive gaming realm, to be able to help support the next Luka Doncic of esports.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We also always wonder, as the industry grows, more and more students are looking to enter the sector of esports after they graduate. What sort of advice would you give them as they embark on these journeys?
Yeah. Connections are relationships are key in this industry. The industry is very in its nuisance. And it's it's a new form. Relationships matter to individuals, especially companies. Before a company will hire you, they will actually go to the competitor and be like, hey, if you see, how was your opportunity? What is this person like? Like if you go to a team, they're going to be like, they're going to look at your track record, because the industry is still in its infancy. So, relationships are very important, so putting your best foot forward, and you're a human, you're going to make mistakes, but try to mitigate those mistakes as much as possible. But ultimately, showcase your humbleness of wanting to learn. Like I'm admired of a student or someone that comes and be like, I'm going to soak up all your knowledge. Because I did that, so when I see someone else do it, that lets me know I know where you're going to be, I know you're going to you're going to be pretty cool in this space. I know you're going to add value to this industry that I'm incredibly passionate about. And so I would say instantly, it was understand that relationships are very critical in this space. If you mess up a relationship, it can mess you up for a long time in this space. You won't have the longevity in this space if you are not, making sure that relationships are key for you. As well as, just making sure that you're jotting down all your small wins, because this is this is a long road. It's not like you're going to come in here and just get rich. Get rich quick. It's ultimately, in this instance, you have to literally, notate those small wins, because it's challenging. This industry is very, very challenging, and you need those small wins to really be able to track your progress. Yeah. So therefore, when you get down, you're able to look at those small wins. You can say, okay, I'm making progress. Yeah. That's very critical, because you can really you can become uninspired, or you can become, you can really get, if you don't see yourself in the pathway. And I try to use myself as an example, being in this industry for 11 years now, I'm still trying, still trying to figure it out, so it's, if you really have to make sure that you're very focusing on, calculating, jotting down those small wins, looking at them over time. I tell individuals, I used to do that a lot because I ran cross country in college. And it's every time that we completed a mission, I completed a track meet, or a cross country meet, you're looking at your times and you're like, okay, how did I progress? Did I go 1 second or 1 minute or 2 minutes faster? And then you're working that week on how you can go a minute faster or 2 minutes faster. You have to look at that same element when you're in this industry, is really tracking those small wins and losses, and then ultimately building the relationships. Because once individuals identify you're humble and you really want to work and really add value, they'll pull you up under their wing and they'll support you. Because most of us in this industry, I'm sure yourself as well, has had somebody to support us, and we are basically doing our best job to be able to provide that hand back out.
Yep. Absolutely. Seeing someone that's driven, that's really passionate about what they're doing. I mean, it really goes far. In my eyes, I see that. I go, okay, we got to make sure we can get this person, the opportunities for them to capitalize on really how hard they're working. So couldn't agree with you more. Well, Danny, thank you so much for being on the show today. I want to give you some time here at the end to just kind of promote anything you want, talk about where people can find you, how to get in touch with you, all of those types of things. So go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Just, I always tell individuals, LinkedIn is a really awesome platform to be able to use to make connections. If you follow me on LinkedIn, don't so much just follow me, but look at the activity. And that activity will show you everyone that I interact with and make those connections from those individuals, because there's only one person, but there's a huge community of awesome individuals out there in this industry. So really just use me as a platform to just go meet everybody else and really learn from those individuals just as much. And so that's the biggest advice that I will provide to you. If you happen to be in Dallas anytime, please come down, stop by our Esports studio and education center. It'll be an awesome opportunity for you to see like what, esports looks like in Dallas. And outside of that, I would just say, just if you have some insights or if you have some questions, just feel free to reach out to me. Like, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I'm sure there's somebody else that I can know, that I can ping and help you get that answer.
Love it. That's an open endorsement. Hit Danny up. So I appreciate that, and I'm sure all of our viewers will be reaching out to you. Our next episode is going to be on October 13th, and since we've talked so much about NBA 2K today, we're going to have NBA 2K former pro and now marketing coordinator for the NBA 2K League, Brandon Toxics Rodenbush.
Wow.
At 5 p.m. right back here on the Armada channel. So we will see you on the 13th. But we really appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you all later.